Remember, guys, I'm fair, but I'm firm. Touch him up. Good luck.
Who the fuck is
Larry Flowers?
So how will I do it? I'm gonna trade this life for fortune and fame. I even cut my hair and change my name. Cause we all just wanna be big rock stars.
Ding, ding, ding. Fellas, what's up? It's your boy Larry Flowers here with another episode of the Fair But Firm podcast. With myself, Larry Flowers. I got my boy Colin Thompson on.
What up?
Hey, also, some of the people that have been listening to this since the beginning, shout out. I know the majority of the people right now are Philadelphia-based type people. This is a Philadelphia-heavy podcast. We talk everything in sports, but I'm a Philly guy. I rep Philly always, just like the hat I'm wearing right now. That's how we are in Philadelphia. We rep Philly hard. We're crazy, but passionate. But that's what that's we're loyal. That's what we are.
No question. There's tons to unpack there. And if you stay tuned and go back to previous episodes, you're going to find the loyalty. We did the first episode 0, the original episode of Fair But Firm with Larry Flowers at your boy's spot, Avenue Steaks. I was up there at Pasta Ficio, right next to Chicky and Pete's in South Philly. This little Italian deli. Holy cow. I got a hoagie there. It was fantastic. It's no Avenue Steaks, but holy shit, it's pretty good.
Man, living in California, I've been here 22 years now. I just miss Philly food, man. I miss Philly food. Just being able to go down the street and get a sandwich. I mean, at this point, even a Wawa hoagie is nice. For those of you that don't know, Wawa is like 7-Eleven on steroids.
Yep.
And testosterone and HGH and all that stuff.
Little T.
It's just so you see that goose sign, the logo, the Wawa logo with the goose. It's a goose, right?
Yes.
And you just every time you drive by, you don't even have to be hungry. You're just like, I'm gonna stop by and get myself a hoagie. I'm gonna stop by and get a bag of chips. Why? Because it's Wawa. It's us. It's Philly. We love it.
It's the best, man. There's something about it that it gives you a hug. I think it's becoming more commercial. It's not giving you a hug as much. What I miss the old take the piece of paper, check off with the little pencil what you got on your hoagie. I miss that, I will admit. But
yeah, but I think people started stealing too much, right?
Oh,
so they had to come up with a better system. But they got the nice computers. You punch in what you want. You punch in exactly what you want. They make it for you. You take the little receipt. You pay for your food. You bring it back. You prove that you paid for it. You get your sandwich. You get your mac and cheese. You get it's just proper, man.
Did you see they came out with a March Madness 64 parking lots that are the worst Wawa parking lots in the country? Did you see that?
No.
They did a March. I think Barstool Philly did it. They came up with a March Madness bracket that's got the top 64 worst Wawa parking lots in the country.
No way.
That's the most Philly thing ever. Someone in Delco won. You know, like the awkward parking lot for a Wawa, like the old school one.
The first one that comes to mind is the one right off of Frankfurt Ave in Port Richmond. It's so small. It's always jam-packed. You can't ever get in or out of it. On top of that, you're dodging bullets left and right. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, the one I grew up going down, it had 5 to 10 parking spots. And that was completely normal. Yeah. And they built another. I remember like 10 years ago, they put a parking lot on the side of it, like a big one. I'm like, why is this happening? And then boom, they blew this.
Hey, let me tell you something about Wawa. This is great. When I was young, so me and like my high school boys and one of my best friend, Mark Mazzoni, shout out Mark Mazzoni, officer Mark Mazzoni, decorated policeman for a long time, Philadelphia PD, one of the greatest human beings in the world. Anyway, but when we were young, he wasn't always a cop. We used to be a little bit bad and get a little bit of trouble and get into fights and stuff like that. But anyway, I've been in a few fights and I've been in 3 fights at Wawa growing up. Wow. And the joke in my neighborhood, like within that group of friends, was always like, I'm the Wawa champ. So to this day, we'll all be hanging out and like, you know, so if someone's talking shit, like, hey, that guy better watch out. You'll take him right to Wawa. But yeah, man, for some reason, I've always gotten fights at Wawa in the parking lot. Very strange.
Very strange.
3-0, by the way. 3-0 at Wawa parking lot. Fact.
I was in your hood the other day, right north of Port Richmond, North Philly area. right off 95, talking
Yeah,
to a company called,
that's a little further north from where I live, but close enough.
yeah, close enough, 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, not
Yeah.
far. I was doing a little podcast up there, meeting some friends, but I digress. You talk about things that are wonky, a little weird. I want to touch on this. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about your weekend, because it's a pretty cool thing you did this weekend with Uppy before we get into the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, everyone knows I like to spend a lot of my weekends down in Orange County, California, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach. Got some of the boys down there. Hung out with my boy Tim Generis. Shout out Tim Generis, one of my best friends. He's an absolute beauty, Indiana boy. He's about 5'4", and he could play ball. And he'll absolutely break your ankles. So watch out. But no, I was down in Orange County this weekend, and then on Sunday the Ducks played St. Louis at the Honda Center at the Pond, and Scotty Upshaw and I took his son Beckham. I mean, this kid is just so cute. He's a great little boy, and he's growing up so fast. But anyway, we took him to the hockey game. We sat on the glass. We went and saw some of our friends who play for the Blues, including Braden Shen, who's one of my close friends. And we had a great time, sat on the glass, like I said, and Beckham was just having a great time banging on the glass, and guys were coming by and saying what's up. After the match, obviously Shenner came by. We sat and caught up a little bit in person, which is always nice. But the real treat of that game was to see an old friend of mine and an absolute legend in the NHL, Mr. Alex Steen. Alex Steen is now working with St. Louis Blues. He's doing a lot of scouting. He's also one of the GM or the assistant GM for the Sweden World Junior team. And so he's got a lot going on right now, and he's been in Sweden for a while, and now he's stateside. He was here for about a week, and he ends his stay here in the States in Anaheim. And so he came back to the house with Uppy and I, and it was really great to see him. Alex is one of the best people I've ever known in my life. He's one of the great leaders in the NHL. He's one of the most respected guys that I've ever known, as far as guys that played in the NHL and respect by his peers. And we just sat around, we drank some really good wine, opened up. Well, actually we get to Uppy's house, and he's about to go open some wine. I say, hey, up dog, don't go opening up that cheap shit. We want the good red. We want the good stuff. He goes, all right, you know what? Steener's here. I'm going to pull out the Camus. So I pulled out a couple bottles of Camus.
I feel like that's middle of the road for him, though.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But continue.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good enough for me, though. I don't have that rich a palate when it comes to wine, but
no.
But it was nice. We sat around, we watched some sports, we caught up. And it was just really, really a treat to be able to see Alex again, Steener, and yeah, great time this weekend.
The biggest thing that you miss when you're out of the locker room, or in yourself that's been in locker rooms before, and that St. Louis Blues team that he was on certainly adopted you into that locker room, which I know you articulate and was so special to you, is like just being with the boys. That's it. Like putting the hard work in, focusing, and then being with the boys. It's great that you got a chance to do that. And what a great little community that you have around you too, with your jewelry company. And like, it's not about the jewelry company, right? It's about the journey and the friends and the travel and the stuff around it. Like that's all the jewelry company's a vehicle, the wine media company, or the football stuff. It's all amazing, but it's a vehicle for friends like you got, and you got a great group, man.
It's a great perspective. You're absolutely right. It's funny because obviously I know a lot of guys in the NHL, and they're, I won't say who, but there's some guys that talk to me about their room, and they're like, we're not really that tight, or there's just something missing. And it's not like, it's not the type of room where you just, kill yourself for someone else. But then there's other rooms where you're like, these guys are my brothers. And that St. Louis Blues team in 2019, when they won the mug, that was that kind of room. And Alex Steen, although he was the assistant captain, Petro was the captain of that team. But by all standards, Steener was really the leader of that team. And when Steener speaks, you listen. And he loves to laugh, and he's got that big smile. He's missing like 5 teeth. And he's got his big, his nose and his face. He looks like a warrior. He's got a warrior's face. But when he speaks, you listen, and he's an incredible friend. And yeah, like you said, same with my business. And every client works with me directly. So I take it very, very personal. Everybody that I do business with is part of my life.
Well, after I told my brother that I called him out to you on the phone and said, my brother's, he's not the sports guy, he's like, I'm going to buy one day when I can afford it, I'm buying a watch. Great Larry Flowers. He said, I don't know about this. Well, I don't know about the watch of the week last week. He's like, it's a little out of my price range. We're going to get to the watch of the week this week.
I get you. One of the things that kind of, it's a little hard on me is you can't believe how many people reach out to me and we're texting back and forth or DM and they ask me about this and that. And they're like, one day when I can afford, this, I'm coming to you. And it's always really nice to hear that. But, I always tell people also, like, if you can't afford it, just remember, it's just a fucking watch. And I mean it. I mean, listen, that's what I do for a living. I'm not poo-pooing my business, but if you can't afford something and you're trying to stretch too far to try to grab it, it's just a watch.
Just a watch.
Save your money, take care of yourself, take care of your family, make smart decisions with your money. If you can afford it, buy yourself a nice timepiece, get yourself whatever you want.
There's something that happened in the NHL, speaking of chiclets being missed, and not spitting chiclets, which you got a wonderful shout out the other day on the previous Game Notes podcast. Check that out. Another great show.
Yeah. Mike Grinelli, thanks for the shout out, man. You're a beauty. I did a little something for him over the All-Star weekend in Toronto, and he gave me a beautiful shout out.
Yeah, they're first class. They're great guys there. Yeah. I listen every week, every show. But, it's not the full segment we're talking about. Larry and I have something in the works, but I got a little surprise for Larry today. Let's see what you think, Larry. And I want to hear your breakdown of this.
Square Garden has seen its fair share of bouts on the canvas on the ice. No undercard tonight. Rempe and McDermott, the main event to open the hockey game.
Both sides. Lazar went the other side as well.
Jimmy Vesey and Lazar. Gaudreau has dropped them with Kevin Ball as well. Now it's 5-on-5. McDermott and Rempe exchanging blows. But everybody has gloves off at the Garden. DeAndre Miller and John Marino. There's only 4 officials. There's 5 fights. They're trying to break up what they can. Meanwhile, Rempe and McDermott still throwing them. DeAndre Miller got the better of John Marino down on the other end. As McDermott still feeding rights to Rempe.
All right, Larry, what do you think, man?
It was great. It was so good for hockey. It was so good to see. There is a little bit of a backstory. I'm not gonna throw some names out there and my sources. I wouldn't do that, but there is a few little backstories to the whole fight, and obviously Remke, injured a couple guys on the Devils in the last few games or a couple games, and it just guys were going by each other's bench and saying, is this really happening? Here we go. We're going to go. I mean, listen, this is great for hockey. Anybody that says fighting doesn't belong in the NHL is a fool. Hockey keeps you honest, or fighting keeps you honest. There's a culture in fighting in hockey. And this is what the NHL needs. It needs the reason why the NHL is one of the greatest sports leagues of all time is because it allows its athletes to police themselves. And that's an incredible discipline if you really think about it. Like there's a deep-rooted respect within the community of guys that drop the mitts. And as a fan, it's incredible to watch. There's so many guys. I have a laundry list of friends that I've known for a long time now that were unbelievable fighters in the NHL and great players. I mean, first guy comes to my, Sheldon Surrey, for example. I mean, he was a killer. But there was a culture to the fight, and there's a reason why you fight. And if you cross the line in a hockey game and you injure guys and you do something that you need to be held accountable, that's what hockey provides. It provides accountability within the game itself, outside of the laws of the refs and management of the league. And that fight was fantastic. That is exactly what the NHL needs.
Exactly. I love what you had to say, Larry. I think, and I'll make it clear too, for those that we didn't introduce it and those that didn't know what happened, Rangers, Devils, this past week, 5-on-5 line brawl, McDermott, Rempe. It was, the main card, if you will, but all 5 guys dropped the gloves. All 5 guys aren't all fighters on both sides of the ice, but respect to them for doing it. I don't like how they kicked the guys all out of the game.
I don't.
I don't get that. Give them all penalties.
Like, what are we doing? What are we kicking guys out of games left and right here
It's
throughout the whole
stupid.
season?
It thins
It's
the bench
such a
out.
joke.
We're talking about player safety. You're talking about soft tissue injuries, more volumes on legs. Like, I get it. They dropped the gloves off the draw. But you know what? Keep the fighting in the game. This season, I don't care what the numbers are, but the visual, I see fights all the time. And it's so much fun. And we're going to, it's just literally the smallest appetizer in the world.
Let me just say one thing. If you watch the video, hey, Gary Bettman, if you watch the video and the replay of the fight, watch the crowd. Watch the crowd. There's not a fan at the Garden that's not on their feet. Not one. Figure it out. You're punting guys for dropping the mitts for something that happened the last game when someone got hurt and they're trying to avenge their teammate. Like, it's a hockey fight. No one's getting killed out there. It's dangerous, but they're getting paid to do that. They're entertainers. They're hockey players. This is not basketball. This is not basketball. This is a man's game. This is hockey. This is what they do. And they've done it since the beginning of the history of the sport. Figure it out, Gary.
Mic drop. Mic drop. I hate to do it. You can go to a negative here for the Philadelphia Flyers, but we got a transition here on the Larry Flowers Show. Fair but firm with the great Larry Flowers.
You're just getting me all worked up, and then you're going to double work me up now with the
Penguins, bud. Here comes Sidney Crosby. Here comes the nightmare. I say this all the time. I think he's my favorite hockey player of all time. As a Flyers fan, I don't care. I would die for that guy to play for the Flyers. He would be on the Mount Rushmore of Philly athletes. He would be bigger than any Philly athlete that possibly could come to town, especially if you brought all those cups. So for me, great. I get the rivalry and all that stuff, and people are like, "You're crazy, Sidney Crosby," but I have nothing but respect for this guy. He's an absolute warrior.
I've said it for years. My favorite player of this era, era let's call it 10, 15 years, right? There's no question it's Sidney Crosby. First of all, I've known Sid for a long time. He is one of the funniest guys you will ever meet in your life. And he has the gift of making a joke that's like 3 words long, and that's it. He's very witty. He's got a really funny laugh. He is just, he's an unbelievable guy, and he is so competitive. He's such an incredible hockey player. I've rooted for Crosby for a long time. Flyers fans, Philly fans. I'm a Philly diehard guy. I'm a Northeast Philly guy, so don't come and try to challenge my Phillyhood. That's not going to get you anywhere. But I know Sid. I've known him a long time, and I'm telling you, he's an absolute beauty. As a matter of fact, listen, he actually hates the city of Philadelphia. He hates our fans. He's a passionate guy. He wears his heart on his sleeve. But I'll tell you a quick little story. He told me years back, he said, we were playing in Philly. It was a huge game. It wasn't a playoff game, but it was playoff implications. And this is probably going back now like 10 years or so. And they're on the bus, and they're pulling into the Wells Fargo Center, and there's 1 million Flyers fans down the ramp watching the Pittsburgh Penguins team pull into the barn. And they're all throwing things, and they're throwing eggs at the bus and this. And Sid goes, we're out golfing, and he's telling me the story. And he says, he looks at me and he says, Flowers, I look to my left, and people are throwing eggs, and they're throwing all this shit. And I looked over to my left, and I saw this kid on his dad's shoulder. And the kid must have been no older than like 5 years old. And the kid just had 2 middle fingers up in the air saying, go fuck, like, fuck you. And he looked over and he said, I hate these fucking fans. Really genuinely hates the city of Philadelphia. But there's probably a reason why his numbers against the Flyers are really, really good. Brings out the best in him. Yeah, I'm not ashamed to say it. Sidney Crosby is one of the greatest players of all time. He's arguably the greatest player of his generation. He's the man. He's the man. And Pittsburgh is they're trying to make the playoffs right now. Love him or hate him, put Philly aside. It's probably better for the NHL if Sidney Crosby's in the playoffs. So you got to, as a NHL fan, you got to keep that in mind. But it's getting dicey right now. They're making a push. Obviously, they lost last night. They needed that win against Toronto. Lost that game last night in overtime. But they got a big point. They're on the outside looking in right now, but anything's possible now. There's a few games left. Like this is gonna get sticky now. Let's see what happens.
The funny thing with the Flyers is, right, it's a mess and it's imploding and they haven't won a game in 7 games and all this stuff. But guess what? No one else is winning. Like Pittsburgh's winning, but like they could afford Pittsburgh to win because they were so far behind. But like the guys around them, Detroit just snuck in, Pittsburgh's been in and out. Like the Flyers are right in the thick of it. Not like, oh, now of course the momentum and the team's not really confident. But to me, I just think the Flyers ran out of gas, the depth, the whole 9, right? They don't really, the team is not that loaded, but they ran out of gas, and that's part of it. You got a guy like Hathaway, dude. How about him, man? What a year laying the boom.
All-time leader in Flyers history in hits. Unbelievable stat. Got to tip your cap to that. I mean, that's a heck of an accomplishment to be able to represent the Philadelphia Flyers as the all-time hits leader. I love his game. Love his game. He's Flyers hockey. He's the kind of guy I want on my team. If I'm a GM, that's the kind of guy I'm going to get. He works hard. He doesn't give up on he doesn't let up on one shift. He's in your face. He mucks it up. He gets in the goal. He's in the crease. He's an ugly player and ugly player that works really, really hard. And
the Flyers have like 3 lines of that, Larry. That's the problem. They need a top line that scares the shit out of you.
I know. Those guys don't grow on trees, right?
I know that.
You got to draft them. You got to
draft them. They lost Gauthier. That's a guy that would scare the hell out of me.
Let me talk. Let me speak on this for a second. I was just talking to someone recently who made a comment to me. Actually, shout out Keith Cohen, diehard Capitals fan, very knowledgeable sports fan. One of my really, really good friends. He's diehard DC everything. We have a good rivalry going. And his family is part of ownership groups for some of the teams down there, with the exception of the Commanders. But he made a comment to me, and it was just, it's an assumption, but he said, I'd be a little concerned, and everyone's really excited, and so am I, about Danny Briere and Keith Jones running the show in Philadelphia. But he said, I'd be a little concerned with this Gauthier situation and that group at upper management. Something happened. We still don't really know what happened. I really would love to know. But it's now that it's kind of settled in a little bit, he's gone, and we've got Drysdale, who's a very good player. But I don't think it's even going to be comparing Drysdale to Gauthier. Obviously, we'll see what happens, but this Gauthier kid, man, it really stings to see him go. He is going to be a fucking superstar. He shoots the puck like fucking Austin Matthews. Even if it's not as good as Austin Matthews, it's close. He can skate. He's big. He's strong. Flyers. You lose so many years. And you draft. You pray and you hope and you draft and you make. You hope that the stars align in order for you to get the type of player that he is, and you get him and you lose him before you even have him. I mean, it's been bugging me a lot lately. I've been talking to a lot of people about it. I think we're going to look back in 10 years and really that one's going to sting big time for Flyers fans.
The Ducks made out like a bandit.
Yeah.
I think they did. I love Jamie. Sure, moves really well. Puck moving defenseman, right-handed, shot, the whole 9. It's probably great. And you know what? Who knows? It's going to be a great defenseman in the league, and it could be like a draw. But guess what, man? It is hard to fill out these lines where you look at these teams that play the Flyers or play on the in the Western Conference, and you're like, bro, they couldn't even. The Flyers have beat a lot of these teams this year too, which is funny. But in a 7-game series, you can't play keep away with them. They're too talented. And you see it in overtime when there's a little bit of room on the ice. Like, it's over. Flyers can't even hang with them.
I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, to play in Anaheim instead of Philadelphia is like, I mean, there's no comparison. That barn, the Honda Center, it's the worst. It's the worst barn in the NHL.
No one's there.
It's awful. It's awful. I mean, It's just smaller. It's old. It's whatever. It's not that bad, I guess, but it's nothing compared to playing in Philadelphia, the fans and stuff like that. But you get to put your feet up in Newport Beach, and you get to run into Larry Flowers at a restaurant,
And you get to pay ridiculous taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I'm sure I'll be running into that kid, and I look forward to meeting him eventually. But living in Newport Beach or Costa Mesa or CDM down there and playing for the Ducks, that's not a bad life.
Dude, you spend a little bit more money, you get a great place. If I could give them any advice, I've done it and traveled. And within my budget, renting wise, I spent the money and got a great place. My peace of mind was through the roof. Don't be cheap. Don't, go above your means a little bit. If you got the dough, if I could give him advice, moving to a new city, find a new spot that you're going to lay your head for a while. That's going to continue to gain value in a great location, because I did it, man. I tried to save a buck. I stayed in truck stop hotels, because I didn't have any money. I was a practice squad guy, But when I got some dough, I made sure I got a good spot.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. All right, Fedotov, new goalie for the Flyers.
Yeah,
they have another goalie coming over from Russia. We talked about him last week on the show. I've listened to 32 Thoughts. I've listened to Jason Martinez with Flyers Daily. And Michkov, listen, he's got 2 more years after this under contract, but Danny B's getting these guys over.
we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. So, Fedotov, big boy, man. These big goalies, it takes a while to get coordinated and get moving, right? Like Ben Bishop early on, I remember him. He had struggles. Vasilevsky had his, being a big boy, little things here and there, but now he's unbelievable. I feel like this guy's going to be fine. He's just got to grow into his body a little bit.
Yeah, listen, no one's snapping it around like they do in the NHL. They're different looks. They're heavier shots. Obviously the greatest league in the world. So there's an adjustment, but I see a lot of potential. He looks to be really, really a good player. I think he's going to be a tremendous goalie in the NHL. I'm a little concerned about his high blocker. Seems like he's so big that, he's having a little trouble getting it up. He let up a few high blocker goals in the last couple of games that I've noticed. And I noticed that he's kind of keeping it a little bit low. He's so big. He kind of depends on his shoulders a little bit. He's got to get that blocker up a little. But again, I'm not a goalie. I don't pretend to be an expert in the crease there. But I do notice that his blocker's a little low, and they beat him high blocker a couple times. So something to look out for. But I'm optimistic with him. I think I'm optimistic for all the problems that we've had in Philadelphia for Flyers fans for all the years. The one thing has always been goaltending. And I think that goaltending, for one, is an optimistic area for the team on the roster moving forward. So that's good.
I think what Hart leaving was the initial blow that started this team descending. But to your point, there's depth in the farm system. There's Samstrom and Fedotov and the other guy they brought over from Russia, and you knew Alex Lyon and these guys that were coming up that were solid. You knew all their names. You knew they would come up. They showed time. Where before in Philly, we knew all their names because guys were getting hurt or guys were getting booted out.
Yeah.
So it was a different thing. So tough loss for the Flyers are in a skid. I'm optimistic. I like Torts. I love his press conferences. I love his juice. I love his energy. The guy is dialed in. Don't let him fool you, at least in my opinion. He's smart. He thinks this is what the formula is for his team to have success. I don't know what's going on in there. I know we've talked about it ad nauseum on this show. But listen, they had 2 tough losses. Buffalo was rough. Columbus, rougher. I think at the end of the day, Larry, I don't think it's on Torts, man. I don't believe coaches are great and all.
You don't, eh?
I don't, man. I playing for a lot of coaches. I played for Matt Rule. He got fired in Carolina, and people blame Rule. And I wanted to look around, and a lot of the players would sit there and say, "Yep." I'm like, listen, that guy paid you, signed you, and you played like shit.
Yeah.
I had bad plays. I had bad games, right? So everyone's got to point the finger at themselves.
I get that. I can't help to go back to that last presser that he did. And
I think his presser the other day was one of the best of all time. We talked about leadership and accountability. And if you can't have someone in this room tell you truth and group meetings, that's
the problem is in the NHL when you go publicly to the country and tell the world that you've got guys on your team that have no idea how to play in these moments, which might be true. You're not only stinging those guys, you're stinging the guys that do know how to play in those moments, who are probably best friends with those other guys in the same room. That's the problem.
Or
I think
players
there's
on
things.
other
I think
teams.
there's things you got to keep in house. I really, really do. I'm a big Torts guy. I defend him. I support him. I love his energy. I love putting guys on blast. When I was a young hockey player, I played for my favorite coach of all time was Jerry Domish, motherfucker, absolute motherfucker, the meanest, baddest motherfucker that I've ever played for. He's that guy. And I loved him. He got the best out of me. And I think Torts is that same kind of guy. But I think at the pro level, there's things that you can and can't say. I think he took it a little too far. That's just my opinion. And the response, I mean, look, the Buffalo game, they actually played pretty well, especially early on. They could have scored 5 goals in the first. That Blue Jackets game, there's no explanation for that. You just can't lose. They're falling apart. They're running out of gas. They're falling apart. If they continue to slide, I mean, I don't think Torts' job is necessarily on the line, but you never know. You never know. I don't think so, but listen, you don't know how guys are talking behind closed doors in the room. Guys could be going up to Dan Breer, say, "Hey, man, what he said that's out of bounds. Like, I don't want to play for this guy." Gauthier, maybe he doesn't want to play for him. You lose that kid.
Larry, I think the bigger problem is guys in other locker rooms on Instagram scrolling on the plane, waiting for the plane to take off, and they're sitting there and they're a free agent next year, and they're looking at their buddies like, "Fuck, dude, I hope I don't end up in Philly." You know, I think that could be the bigger problem. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, or I think it's soft, but like that's the kind of guy I want to play for. I'll be honest with you. Me too. I want a guy who's going to be like, "Yo, you bust your balls." He loves Nick Seeler. He loves Lawton. He loves TK. He loves Hathaway. He likes the guys that play hard.
Yeah.
Period. And there's a lot of great guys that love him. There's guys that don't. So to me, that actually means usually you're pretty damn good. Like
let's talk about this for a second. So the beginning of this slide, which I think was the Rangers game, because they played so fucking well. They played so well. That was one of the best hockey games of the year. Then they followed that up 2 days later against the Canadiens, and they absolutely shit the bed. That was one of the worst games they played all year. They got a chance to avenge that loss. They play at Montreal tonight, 7 p.m. I mean, I've been saying it now for a couple games, but this really is do or die. You lose this game, if you don't get 2 points in this game, it's beyond over, because you got the Rangers coming up next. Then you got Jersey and the Caps, and you better believe those teams are going to be playing hard.
They got to win. They got to win out. They got to play hard.
It's going to be tough. I mean,
right now,
I have to bet my life on it. I'm not on the Flyers train right now. I hope I'm wrong.
I'm on it, baby.
I want to. I want him to. Let's go. Let's see what you're made of. This is an opportunity for these young guys who Torts buried. This is an opportunity for you to show what you're really made of right now. Even if you don't get in these next 4 games, if you can go 3-1, show a little bit of heart, resurrect your career, maybe in Philadelphia. The drama never ends. Let's see what happens.
Pitt, Washington, Philly, Jersey, Buffalo are all on the outside looking in. Detroit has snuck in. We'll see what happens, but there's only one wild card spot left. Tampa Bay has locked that up. All right, Larry, moving forward. We'll keep it in the NHL, the playoff format. Lastly, on the NHL, your thoughts.
All right. I just heard a take on Spit and Chicklets this week that they were talking about the 1 through 8 and reseed and how that's what it should be. I've been saying that for years. I think I've said it on this show before. It is so. I'm going to try to not even try to speak intelligently right now. I'm just going to speak from the heart, because that's how it's so obvious. It is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life in the NHL. It is so fucking stupid that they have top 3 in the Metro, top 3 for each division, and then 2 wild card. I'm fine with that. But then you got to go 1 through 8. What do you play the whole season for? And you get a 1 seed, and you got to play a team in your own division. How is that rewarding teams? It just doesn't make any sense. And they talk about we want to have rivalry games. I don't give a shit about rivalry games. When you make the playoffs and you're playing playoff hockey, every single series is a rivalry series. These guys are out there killing each other. There's nothing like playoff hockey. You don't need to create rivalry series in the playoffs. Like, no one cares. People, you should, if you win the President's Trophy, or if you're the 1 seed in the East or the West, like, you should play the 8th seed. And when after that first round, if you win, it's a reseed and you play the lowest seed. That's the beauty of playing an entire season. it doesn't make any sense for the Boston Bruins to have to play Tampa in the first round. Like, how does that make sense? How does that make sense? Just keep it simple. Stop trying to control like fate and the history of the NHL and control what's going to, like, let it be 1 through 8. That's how it goes. Every year it's different, right? I mean, as of right now, I think the Kings are playing the Oilers in the playoffs. That might change, but like that's what we've had like 2 years in a row. It's just like it just limits, like it's just so fucking stupid. Like I said, I'm not gonna even try to, I'm not gonna try to use big words and overcomplicate this thing. It's so fucking stupid. Figure it out, NHL. There's a lot of things you've been doing that's so damn stupid, and this is one of them. 1 through 8, you reseed. You take the top 3 from each division. Those teams make the playoffs. The next 2, most points, wild card. That's a great way to figure out who's in and who's out. And from there, go 1 through 8, reseed, and let the chips fall where they may. Very simple.
Keep it simple, stupid. From the great Larry Flowers, fair but firm. I love it, Larry. Let's move on to football. Vontae Maddox back with the Birds. Your thoughts on the move?
I like that. Listen, he's not a game breaker, but he knows the system. He's been in Philly for a long time. Yep. From everything that I've heard, guys love him in the room. He's best friends with help me out, the tight end.
Goddard.
Yeah, I think they're best friends, right?
Yeah, he's him. That whole class came in together.
Yeah.
Could be off. It's like Sweat, him, Goddard. Pretty sure it was a good draft class. I could be wrong, but no, you're right. He's been a guy around for a while.
He's a guy that if you strengthen the other D-backs around him and put him in the right system, like, if you're not asking him to do too much, I think he's a guy that you can plug in and get a lot out of him. And like I said, I think he's a good player. We've had the opportunity to watch him for a while now. I like the signing.
Philly's going to be very active at this draft. They are active in every draft, but you can bet Howie Roseman's going to be doing something to address that defensive backfield, primarily the guys on the outside. What's, Banbury up to? What's Slay up to? Both players that are getting older, that are expensive. We'll see what they do. But
see it, Bradbury. You got to figure out a way to get him out of there.
Moving on to base.
Get him out of there.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the guy plays well when he has to prove something. That's been his thing, and he proved his worth, and he got paid. Didn't have a good year. He's a zone corner too, and Vic Fangio is more of a zone guy. They moved him last year, like in the slot and all this stuff, which I thought was very weird. But he's a zone corner, and Vic's a zone guy. So we'll see what Vic Fangio does, and I think Vic will have major impact on the save for that too. Because if Vic likes him and says he can rejuvenate his career, they're going to have to do it because financially, the cap hits when you get rid of these high-paid guys. It really handicaps the team.
Totally. That's why I need you talking about football on the Fair but Firm podcast. That's why I need you.
I need you. That's why I'm here. All right, brother. Moving on to baseball. Dodgers, Ohtani. A lot of drama there.
Crazy. Did you see what happened?
Talking about the gambling stuff?
Not the home run. The home run ball.
No.
Okay. Really?
No, I've been, dude. My head is in the sand right now.
All right, listen to this. Listen to this. People, listen to this. This is what separates a world-class organization to a maybe not even a team that.
Oh, you're talking about the home run ball.
Yeah, it's like like almost like they're such a big time organization, but maybe they're too big time, and they're like the evil empire type deal.
Yeah, they held her. They held her kind of ransom, if you will.
Ohtani hits his first home run of his career for the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. Young fan, diehard Dodger fan. She's at the match with her husband. She catches the home run ball. A lot of people think it's worth over $100,000, but basically the Dodgers, they send their security team. They go grab her and her husband. They bring him downstairs because Ohtani wants his first home run ball with the Dodgers. It's a historic ball. And what they did apparently was when they wanted to negotiate with her to get the ball back, they separated her and her husband, and they wouldn't let her husband come in the back in the negotiating room, which means immediately they have some sort of, bad, bad intentions of negotiating with this woman, which is really fucked up if you think about it. Really, really fucked up. So anyway, they bring her in the back. They negotiate. I think they negotiated like a signed hat and signed another just regular signed baseball and a bat or something like that. And the girl just felt like she was completely taken advantage of. She was her and her husband have been out and about doing a couple of interviews, and they're pretty upset about it. And honestly, as a fan looking out from the outside in, like that's gutless. That's so beyond gutless. Like give them season tickets. It's Dodger Stadium. Like it's a huge park. Give them season tickets. Give them a signed game worn Ohtani jersey. Like make it sweet. Don't bring her in there. Separate her from her husband. Give her a rotten deal. From what I understand, I think the Dodgers said that they would reopen like communication with them and try to do something else because there's been a little bit of backlash. But for the fact that happened in the first place is so fucking gutless. That is not the way you run an organization. That's not the way you treat your fans. And the comments from her and her husband were, we have been bleeding Dodger blue our entire life. We love this team with everything we have. And for them to treat us like this is kind of like it's like a back slap to the face, right? A backhanded back slap right to the mug. Gutless.
I don't like it myself either. I think you said it best. Whatever I'm going to add is not worth it, so we'll keep it moving. Bronny James, a lot of stuff going on with hoops. My initial thoughts with Bron is his dad's a real smart businessman. His dad's a smart basketball man. I'm sure his son, Bronny's smart. Professionally, all the things that come with that, Larry. I'm sure there's an articulate, what's the word? This is a decision that there a lot of thought was going into, and I don't think it's very dramatic, if you will. So I like the move from him because I trust his dad with basketball, and I trust the kid with basketball too.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
I'm not a big LeBron guy. Never have been. Well, that's
I mean, I just
very beginning. I was a LeBron guy. I'm not a LeBron guy anymore. I refer back to my boy Timmy. He knows as much, if not more, about basketball than almost anyone I know. He knows guys coming out of high school. I mean, he's that guy. So, but he's told me quite a bit about Bronny, and he tells me he's a good player. He's not a great player. He's nothing close. He's not like his dad, like whatever. But
no.
It's funny because now LeBron is saying, "Let the kid be a kid." Let the kid be a kid. Stop giving him all this pressure. But you're the one that went out there and said that you want him to come out and play in the NBA right away, and so you could play on the same team. Like you created this expectation, and now you're complaining. That's what I don't like about LeBron. Like you could see how he plays a game. Like he cries a lot. He's a whiner. That's just who he is in his DNA. And I'm not going after his kid. I'm not that guy. But his son, Bronny averaged 3.9 points on one of the worst teams in the Pac-12 coming off the bench. And all of a sudden, like, you think you're an NBA player. Really? Is that where the league's going? I mean, the league is so soft already. The NBA is unwatchable to me. The NBA sucks. All right. Let me make that very clear. I'm a hockey guy. I'm not an NBA guy. The NBA has destroyed its own league. It's a joke. It's soft. The guys are soft. There's too much scoring. Now, these guys are so talented. There's no question. They're incredibly talented.
Oh, yeah.
They're incredible shooters. Everybody on the floor can shoot almost in the NBA now. And I'm not taking anything away from the athletes, but the way they built the game, like everything, ticky-tack fouls, run and gun, up and down. Like, let me see some hard-nosed defending. Let guys bang a little bit. These are grown men. Stop calling ticky-tack bullshit fouls. The NBA stinks. I don't watch it anymore. But that said, Bronny James, if only 3.9 points a game coming out of college on one of the worst teams in the Pac-12 coming off the bench, if you think you're ready for the NBA and your dad's got that kind of pull, and God bless you, good luck.
I don't think he's like going right to the NBA or that one of those situations.
He's going to go to the G. He's going to go to the G League, right? I mean,
yeah. But for me, like, you could declare for the NBA and not go to the NBA. You could come back to college.
No, totally, because he entered the transfer portal. I get that. I'm not trying to go after the kid. I don't do that. I'm really not. It's just it's a little funny.
You're in the majority, dude, for sure. Yeah. I just try to I hear the majority. Okay, I understand it. It makes sense to me. But in the end of the day, I'm like, all right, like I'm sure his dad and him have sat down, and the one thing his dad is smart with basketball and smart with business. That is not, to me, the guy created free agency. The guy, he created power. He created the power of the player, which now every league flexes. Every player flexes. So I respect that. He says, I'm going to Miami. I'm controlling my narrative. I'm taking like less money. I don't owe Cleveland anything. I try to do everything for him. I respect that.
I don't have an answer either way, but let me ask you a question. Did he make the league better or worse?
He made the league better. The NBA made the league worse. They took away hand checking. They took away physical play. They thought.
Well, I mean, with like free agency and like I'm taking my talents and like.
No, I
if you
love
look
it. He
back
had
in hindsight.
massive.
You look at the history of LeBron James and what he's created, the culture that he's created in the NBA.
I'd be a
Guys
hypocrite.
can kind of go where they want to go, and players have a lot of power, which is fine. I'm always on the side of the players, always. But there has to there's a thin line also. You know, my question again is, did he make the league better or worse? In that,
He
aspect?
made the league better. He made more other leagues more money. He has had major impact. Do I agree with everything he does and says? No, but I do know this. He was the beginning of social media. He was beginning of influencer. He was the beginning of huge, and he was in the brightest of lights in the world. Seems like a great dad. I try to focus on the positives on him.
Yeah. Well,
and at the end of the day, like, he's changed sports forever in a really good way. And I'd be a hypocrite if I said no, because, man, I would love more money. Man, I would love to choose where I could play. And if I had that power and I was a better player, I would probably do it.
Playing devil's advocate, how come ratings in the NBA are significantly down? Which they
It's
are.
not him. It's the NBA.
No, I'm not saying
Physicality's out of the game.
I'm saying, does it all? Everything that happens in history has.
Yeah, two things can be right.
Yeah,
I think you make a great point, but for me, I think it's the NBA's fault. Don't hate the player, hate the game. The NBA screwed it up. LeBron played in that era of physicality when he entered the league. He didn't choose for it not to go away. I mean, that guy was impressive.
Fair.
And then all of a sudden, the NBA is like, well, we're going to promote more scoring. We're going to take away hand checking, and the big men are out of the game because they can't keep up. It's like the hockey a couple of years ago when Chris Terry went extinct, Darren Hatcher
too. To be honest with you, but
what's up?
Hockey's gotten soft too, but
yeah, they've taken it out of the game. You can't touch guys anymore. These little tacky calls where they get slashed around your hands and all. Yeah. But the hockey game still can be self-police. That's what they have going on. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of great physical hockey players that can't play anymore. And there's a lot of great NBA players that probably can't play anymore because they don't fit the mold of the league. So yeah,
it's funny. It's like listening to your grandparents talk, right? They're always, in my day, things were so much better, and then my day, this, and my day, we're turning into that.
No, we're not. I just think
I am. I'm turning into that. I'm turning into that old Jewish guy who likes to complain and sit on the porch and sit on the balcony and tell young people about how good I had it in my day and how your day is so fucked up and your music stinks. I'm already turning into that. I'm only 45 back.
Fella. All right. Someone who definitely could play in the NBA if they let her, that's Caitlin Clark. Are you you kidding me? My only gripe with this whole thing is they botched it. Whoever makes a decision of what time these girls play, dude, they played at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific at noon on a Sunday. You have Sunday, every bit of it, other than the CMAs at night. You could own that night, 6, 7 o'clock game, 8 o'clock game. Shit, make it a 9 o'clock game. I stayed up all night and watched that final last night. You have the world by the balls, if you will, when you can say, I'm going to make it a night game. We have the best coaches. We get the best players. The more eyeballs ever have been on March Madness. And you put the game at 3 o'clock on a Sunday. They blew that. They blew an opportunity.
I got to tell you.
They'll never have it again.
I got to tell you. I loved it.
No,
I'm in California. It was a noon game. I woke up in the morning, me and Timmy. We woke up at 7 a.m., went over. We had some unbelievable pickleball matches with some of his buddies down there. We played real hard, like men's style pickleball, hard matches. We played till 11:45, went straight home, and got to watch the match. It started at noon. I loved it. I thought it was great. The timing was great. It was like a lazy type Sunday. There wasn't really anything going on in the sports world. You're right. I think I don't know. Listen, the viewership proves that they did something right, because I think the national championship I think the Final Four match got over 17 million views. Yeah, there's some wild facts regarding that. Give me a second here. Check this out. Here we go. Listen to these stats of the Final Four, the Iowa UConn game. 17 million viewers, more viewers than every NBA Finals game and every World Series game of the last 4 years. ESPN's highest audience for any basketball game on record. ESPN's second best non-football telecast ever. I mean, wow. And then the national championship last night.
It could have been more. Put it in prime time. What are you doing?
I don't know, man.
I think they botched that, dude.
Breaking records. I didn't mind it again. Like after a good morning of playing pickleball and going on the couch, sitting up, putting my feet up, maybe smoking a little doobie, and
you are getting old.
I know, man. I'm telling you.
That's so soft. No,
but it was great. It was great. It was great theater. These girls are so good. I've watched a little women's basketball in my life. Diana Taurasi back in the day, Bird and Lobo. I've watched a little bit, and I'm a Philly guy. Anybody from Philly, I don't care if you like basketball, if you don't like basketball, you know basketball. That's just the way it is, because Philly's a hotbed of basketball, the greatest basketball cities in the world.
It is. It really is.
But it was great theater. Those girls can really, really play. That Caitlin Clark, she is something special. She is just that special. She's a competitor. They're all competitors. Listen, hats off to all of the girls that played in the Final Four and the tournament and college basketball and sports around the world. I love to see it. But we're talking about the Final Four right now, women's college basketball, and hats off to all of the girls. They are so talented. They're so good. They're just really good. And it's almost like when you watch women's college basketball at that level, it slows down a little bit, and it gives you a little bit of a perspective of like they play the way it's supposed to be played, because they don't have these over the top 6'9", 7'1", players that can just jump through the roof and just dunk and shoot from anywhere. Like, they have to play the right way, right? It's more of a system game. And so when you watch the women's college game, I don't watch the WNBA at all, to be completely honest with you, and I'm sure it's very similar.
Will you now?
Yeah, it depends on it. Yeah, you know what? Given the right circumstances, I will. Given the right circumstances, I will. I absolutely will. I wouldn't mind paying a little closer attention. Is it ever going to be, on the focal point of my sports universe? No. But again, I really enjoyed watching the girls. They play the right way. They're tremendous systems. It's a team game. With the exception of maybe Caitlin Clark and a couple other girls, it's really just a complete team game. And I enjoyed watching it. And she's a complete and utter legend. And I can't wait to see what she does next in the NBA. She'll end up in Indiana. So last shout out of the day, Timmy, congratulations. You're going to get Caitlin Clark. We talked about it already, but it was great. The national championship last night was fantastic. You want to talk about that for a second?
Absolutely. My computer guys know. For those watching, being like, what's this guy doing? I left my charger at my parents' house last night because I had head home for some work back to Bucks County, PA, and I'm back down in Annapolis, Maryland. I get here. Oh, shit, I don't have my charger. My laptop's at 25%. Boom. So I did a little switcheroo with the phone, so we're alive and well, baby. I don't hope the audio is not too bad, Larry.
Nah, I can hear you just fine.
I watched the game last night. I love how they put it in prime time. Everybody can watch it. Now, I will say this. The women's game, I'll rebut my argument, is more of a family game, right? It's a family game. A lot of people are sitting down with their kids watching that stuff. Caitlin Clark, right? There's more relatable characters maybe than the guy who's 7'5" playing for Purdue, right? And that's not a shot at him. That's just a natural thing. So maybe have it in the afternoon is a good thing. You get your kids' soccer match in the morning on a Sunday, maybe a couple of hoagies from Wawa. Then you put the game on with the kids. So, watch the game last night, Larry, UConn. Holy shit, man. Basketball factory, men's and women's.
They are. In the last 25 years, what is it, 6 titles? They're the real deal. That's a blue.
Hurley's nuts.
What's that?
Hurley's nuts.
When you know how to win, when you know how to build a program, when you get the right kids. I'm not a big Edie guy. I know a lot of people have been giving it to him a little bit, and I saw something in social media or something recent, like literally this morning. I guess people are giving it to him, and there's guys defending him. I don't take it that far. That's a bit much.
I think he's a pretty impressive player.
He is impressive. He's not my favorite. Now, can he develop? He's only played for 10 years. Can he develop into something really special.
What
You
don't you like
can't.
about him?
It's not everyone's 7-2. What do I not like about him? Great question. I've been watching him for a few years now because I watch a lot of Purdue with Timmy, of course, because he's from Indiana, and I've been following him for a while. He's a good player. Very good player. He's got a good post-up game. He can rebound. He could do all those things, and I think he's going to continue to progress. But he's got weak hands. He's a little soft. I'd like to see a little bit of meanness out of him. Like he should be dominating in the paint a little bit more. He gets stripped quite a bit. I just want to see him stronger hands. I want to see him be a little bit more physical at the cup. I guess those are things that he can develop into for sure. But from what I've seen, there's been a lot of instances where he's been taken advantage of physically a little bit by guys that are a little bit undersized. And that's just my opinion. But I obviously listen, 7-2. You got to give him a shot. He should be all right, right?
I like him. I like his game. I think these big guys, right? We talked about Fedotov. It takes time for them to just put it together. And he's not just a big dude.
He's only been playing for 10 years.
But he's 300 pounds. Like,
yeah, he's been playing basketball.
I think he's going to be just fine. He's, my dad, we were talking about last night. Is he going to bring the NBA back to the big men? No, because the problem is, it's not. My dad brings up a good point, but like the problem is like they're going to go 5 freaking guards and spread you out, and he can't guard them. And then you got a problem. That's why the NBA's changed because you can't touch him either. Because then James Harden goes to the line. James Harden's doing all these dribbling. That's why I don't blame LeBron. I blame the NBA for letting it get bad. College basketball, they let them play a little bit more. It's better to watch.
College basketball is so good to watch. It's the right. That's the right way to watch basketball.
It is.
To me, it's proper. It's pure. It speaks to the roots of the basketball universe. These kids play really, really hard. It's really a team game. And that's why UConn's so good. They're really, really balanced. They're up and down the floor. Their big man is good. They can all shoot. Like they're a well-oiled machine. And I predicted that UConn was going to win the national championship going into the tournament. I predicted that they were going to come out of the Final Four into the championship game, and I predicted that they would win it all. And I put my money where my mouth is. Got a nice paycheck yesterday, gambling with my guy. Oh, it was great. It was great. I went over to my boy K Wash's house. Not too shabby, something like an $85 million house right there in Santa Monica. It's so beautiful, overlooking Riviera golf course. It's so fucking sick. He had a nice big dinner. His chef came in.
85 mil?
Oh yeah. He's I won't go into details about his family and stuff like that, but he's living the good life, and he has us over for all the big games all the time. And hopefully sometime if you're ever in California and stars align and there's something big on TV, a big sporting event, and he's having people over, you'll come with me. Great guy, all-time legend. He brought in a private chef. There was about 15 of us. We had a real nice dinner, watched the game, play with the kids. Rocky was there playing with Callie, his dog. It was a great time. Great night, great national championship.
Larry, I think we got to pivot. We got to pivot to the watch game. We got to pivot to your Larry Flowers jewelry.
Yep.
The watch of the week this week on Fair But Firm. What do you got?
Watch of the week. I just got it in today, which is why I'm choosing it for the watch of the week. It's a Patek Philippe 5711 1A, stainless steel, white dial, non-chrono, very elegant, very classy. It's about $100,000 watch. So it's not cheap, but it's just, it's a type of timepiece where you want to wear something that's not really loud, but classy. Anyone that looks at a 5711, if they see you wearing it immediately, they know you're a gentleman. It's a gentleman's watch. But absolutely beautiful. It's very sleek design, very comfortable to wear. Over $100,000. I just got it in. Anybody out there who loves watches, who's got a few shekels sitting around, and you're interested in 5711 1A white dial, give me a buzz.
Larry Fowler's Jewelry, check him out, Fair But Firm. Larry, a new segment. We're going to get some fighting involved in the show. We have the watch of the week. We're going to keep at it talking hot topics around Philly, around a lot of things. But talking TV shows, talking movies, that type of stuff.
All right.
Some of my favorite shows I've gotten are from guys on Chicklets or guys on Missing Curfew or whatever. People talking about shows you go first. I'll go second here. What's a show that you're loving and you're just finishing up?
Yeah, there's a lot of shows I'm watching. I'm a diehard movie guy. We're going to talk about a lot of movies in the future here on this podcast. But I got to talk about this show. I've always been intrigued with like old school 16th century Japan. Last Samurai was one of my all-time favorite movies. It's just that it's a beautiful culture. It's an interesting culture. And anyway, this show Shogun has come out on Hulu. And I'm all caught. I'm all caught up. It is fantastic. The production. I mean, it's one of the highest rated shows already in history of shows, which is wild. And that's from viewers. I think it's like 90-something%. And that's not from critics. I don't give a shit what critics think. It's all about the viewers. And so anyway, the show, the acting, the only thing, the main guy, the English guy, his voice a little painful. But the show, the production, the authenticity of the culture in Japan in the 1600s and the samurai and the shogun and the storyline is unfucking believable. It is so good. Now, very important. If anyone is listening to this podcast and you want to take my advice and you want to watch Shogun, which I highly recommend you do, there are a few things that you must know going into the show. One, you cannot be on your phone. You can't be on your phone. You will get lost. There's a lot of names. The majority of the show, I would say probably 80%, 75% of the show is in Japanese. So it's subtitles. I also strongly recommend you put on subtitles, even for the English, just so you can kind of try to keep up with the names. It's a show that you can't slip. You can't have your eyes down and think you're just going to listen to it. It doesn't work that way. There's already been a few people that have told me that they got lost and they had to go back. I'm telling you now, if you're going to take my advice and watch that show, watch it, enjoy it, put your phone away, put on subtitles, dial it in, take your Adderall, do whatever you got to do to stay focused. But it's an unbelievable show. It's as good as it gets.
I love it. I'm excited to check it out. Two shows. One, the quick one is easy. The Gotti on Netflix. I just finished that documentary. Really cool.
Yeah, I saw it.
It's quick little 3 episodes, but it's a good little one to get you to your next show if you're looking for something and you want to pop on something quick. Really pretty much talks about how he took down the mob because he was so flamboyant and didn't care, and not flamboyant, but so chesty, if you will, and didn't care being secretive and a secretive thing. But the real good show that I like, Larry, The Gentleman on Netflix, I think it is.
Someone was talking about that yesterday. I have not seen
it. Fantastic. Essentially, it's about a guy, family that's worth tons of money in England, and the dad dies, and they all think they're going to leave. The money's going to be left to the one crazy oldest brother, but he's a nut job. They leave it to the one brother who's former military, and they find out after dad dies and after the brother inherits the money, that there's a wheat farm underground on their huge property.
No shit. Yeah,
and it's good, dude. And he gets tied up, and he's a former military man. He gets tied up in all like with the girl running the weed thing. It's layered, and it's ruthless, and it's gangster shit, and it doesn't start that way. It's a really good show. I was like, after that show, straight depressed that it was over. Straight depressed.
Wow. It's funny because I'm sitting here talking to you, and I said, someone just told me about it. I look behind the screen here. I have Irene, my assistant, who helps me put everything together, the set. She helps out in the office. She's the best. She kind of looks up at me. She gives me one of those looks. Irene's a no fuck around type of girl. She, if I get out of line, she's works for me. But if I get out of line, she'll smack me upside the head. But she gives me the look like, hey, I'm the one that told you about that. As though she wants her props. You'll get your props.
Sorry.
Yeah, she was just telling me about the show yesterday, and I heard it's unbelievable, and it's on my list. I'll certainly be watching it.
Anything else, Larry, you want to discuss here, man? We just ripped it up. A lot of great topics. We got the Masters. Are you a golf guy?
I love golf, of course. Who's not a golf guy? I'm not a golf guy like my boys are. I'll definitely watch it. We're in a pool. I haven't filled it out yet, but I'll certainly be watching the Masters. I'll be down in Newport. I think I'm going to stay down at Upshaw's house this weekend, bug him, make him barbecue for me while we watch the Masters on his 3 TVs. He's got this set up with 3 TVs. So you got all 3 different games going on at the same time. Sit out there, smoke cigars, drink some wine. It'll be a nice weekend. But Excited about the Masters. Again, I'm not a huge golf guy. As far as like knowing all the players and stuff like that, I know a lot of the guys, of course, but it's an exciting weekend. The Masters is it's kind of like a mini national holiday, right?
It really is, man. It's like the beginning of like the warmer weather out east.
Yeah, it is. It's a beginning. Hey, it's the beginning of summer. It's the beginning of spring, right? It's a real beginning of spring. It's springtime. Summer's around the corner. The Masters is on.
Fair but firm with Larry Flowers, baby. What else you got, Larry? That's it, brother?
That's it. Listen, everyone, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Colin, thanks for coming on. You are the best. Fair but firm with myself, Larry Flowers. And until next week, have a great week and weekend, everyone.